Mike and the Christian left for another time. My third video, or maybe it's the second you've read, I don't know, or the fourth if you include, there's a two-parter in there, video catching up on my blogging and adding it to YouTube. This is from February 13th. Full frontal with Sandra Bee did a piece, but God didn't say that. Religious community members talk God and abortion. The link will be down here, and it's in the blog entry as well, which is also linked to down here. But be without saying that please, hit that like button and subscribe and share this video. And, I'm trying to make the topics spicy enough to not be demonetized, but to still attract attention. So this is from, let me add a few thoughts to a very good video. You should watch it. It's got a pastor, I think actually a priest, a rabbi, and an imam, women, of course, and they were talking about what God actually says about abortion. So let me just add some clarification and some corrections, because the first thing that one of the points was that it wasn't banning abortion wasn't in the Bible, and that's correct. The first opposition to abortion was in the Didache. Jesus also gave the example of Joseph not having Jesus aborted, and Mary stoned, subject to the law, and not lying in the crowd, stone a woman found maybe pregnant in the act of adultery. So those are some pro-life examples too, but he never said get rid of number 6, which actually mandated abortion. Now, in the U.S., abortion bans in the U.S. started only when doctors, rather than midwives, started delivering babies. Likewise, the political persecution of women came with universal male suffrage in England. Prior to that, non-peasant women, noble and common, meaning, and a commoner is somebody who's not the son of the Lord, had political and economic rights that were respected. I need to finish. Yes. So before universal male suffrage, noble women, whether they were noble or common, meaning they weren't peasants, their father or their brother was the Lord, and they weren't the lady of the manor, but they were still in that social class, but called commoners. That's as opposed to being a peasant. A commoner and a peasant are two very different things. But when they expanded commoners to be every male, I guess they didn't want poor women voting. So they took all men and dropped richer women. So and that was only but until for a long time, women, upper class women and upper class men had the same rights. So it's. And about the same time that abortion was made illegal was the time where they were starting universal male suffrage, and edging women out, noble women out of, and wealthier women out of politics. So after edging out the women, they started abortion banning. Shock, surprise, surprise. The GOP Evangelicals did not get into the abortion issue until the IRS started to deny funding to segregated schools, their white academies, and it wasn't going to be a good look to still fight for that. So they shifted to abortion to attract the Catholics, to keep a donor base, because Rule 1 in Washington and in the charitable sector is, if you don't have something to do, you go away, and if you're making your meal ticket off of the issue, and you got to find a job. So let's go to Dobbs. Dobbs is the Mississippi abortion case. First question: whether the last word on abortion goes to the states and to whether viability is the correct standard for prohibiting abortion, or whether sometimes sooner is better, but leaving federal power in place. The arguments before the court were on the latter, giving the states what they really want, which is restoration of state government power over civil rights, from segregation to funding education to gay marriage, is not on the cards. But starting to restore that power is why the case was brought. In other words, they didn't really care about the unborn. They cared about state power. That's the Mississippi state legislature. The current practice by Mississippi's single abortion clinic says no abortions after 16 weeks. That's their standard. Forcing a change to 15 weeks is not about protecting those few unborn who may have been aborted during the 15th week. Were there any? I kind of doubt it. It was trying to get the case to the court to reverse federal authority so that they can make their own rules rather than abiding by the federal rule. The smart move by the choice movement in this case would have been, and I didn't read the briefs, so they may have made the argument, I hope they did, that the states never ban abortion unless that class of the unborn is granted civil rights by Congress and Congress only. And I talked about this in another video in this series, or on this. It's another video blog, another posting on YouTube that's on this playlist. It's on this playlist, and that's the law anyway. Gonzalez versus Carhart, the partial birth abortion plan, was that Congress can use the Commerce Clause of all things to regulate abortion or partial birth abortion. That's the standing precedent. It's not Casey and it's not Roe. Recognizing that Congress gets to decide when somebody goes from being part of a medical procedure to an individual under the law, Congress has that sole power. The Supreme Court has it as derived power, and that's how if they change it, that's how they will frame it. The Civil Rights Act of 1875 gave the federal courts power to do civil rights law, and that's why all of that happened. The whole revolution happened. Plessy froze that piece, and then Hernandez and Brown unfroze it. So the law of the land is that the federal government has the last word on the 14th Amendment. And that's the 14th Amendment says. And that Congress can enforce it, and then of course the Civil Rights Act gave that authority to the federal courts to do. And again, the court may say that we're going to change the line, or they could also punt to Congress and say Congress has to change it. Until then, it's viability. We had no choice either way. We didn't make this up. I hope somebody's arguing that in chambers or on their opinions. But whichever, they're not going to get rid of federal power. If they do, welcome to tyranny, because it's more than they're coming for everybody who's not sexually uptight white straight Catholic. Or white straight Protestant. They're going to go after the Catholics too. Trust me. They, no funding Catholic schools. It was just mandated that Catholic schools be able to receive funding under Espinoza versus Montana. It's the Catholic Church, by supporting the pro-life movement desire to get rid of federal power, is shooting itself literally in the foot, because there are people as I've said before, who think that the Catholic Church is the great Satan or the Antichrist, and they don't want to have Catholic churches in Alabama. They've burned them, they've tried to ban them, and the 14th Amendment says they can't do that. You get rid of the 14th Amendment, then, good luck finding Mass in Alabama. You ain't going to find one. Yeah. So it's federal power is the question. And again, if the pro-choice movement had said specifically, Congress has the power, they didn't want to say that, but that's what happened in Gonzales versus Carhart anyway. And not saying so has left us in limbo. If it's said specifically that it's solely a federal power to draw the line on when you go from being a little human in the womb to being a legal person with the full protection of the state, including legal vengeance against the mother and registration of such persons. Again, that's what I talk about in the other video. Getting it straight and honest rather than just winning at all costs would be the best course. But the die is cast. They've already voted. The court is now passing back and forth their briefs. Hopefully they come to the right conclusion or their opinions. I kind of think they will. I'm not one of those who believes that the court has been co-opted by the conservative movement. John Roberts is correct. There are no conservative or liberal justices. Sometimes their legal theories don't go, reflect the judges, the presidents that appointed them, because that's philosophical. But there are no Republican judges. It's usually 3, and 3. But I have said that, and we'll continue to say it. But this video has reached the end of the blog post, and I will bid thee adieu for the 4th time tonight. On the 3rd video is one more left. So click that one too. Again, like, share, subscribe, please, and we can raise the ruckus. Thank you very much.